OpenVPN Part 2. So we're going to be discussing how to configure the client side. Sounds easy, it's a little more complicated than it looks, and we'll talk about that coming right up.
Welcome to Tech Topics brought to you by Cybervenger. We help keep small businesses stay protected and compliant with cutting-edge cybersecurity and IT solutions.
Okay, so to set up the client, the overall process is you need to create a text file with all kinds of configuration information in it. You configure everything in the text file, and then you import it into the client. Client, of course, another piece of software you have to download and install. But there isn't really a GUI configuration in the client, which is a little frustrating. It's like, would it be really that hard to be able to type that stuff in a window? You have to put it in a free-form, text file where you got to know what all the parameters are. It's a little confusing. So we're going to try and put a template out. I think see if I can put a link in the description. That'll give you a chance to download this template, so you don't have to sit there and try manually, but figure it out. But at least you'll have it there on the screen if you do. There's a lot of examples out there. ChatGPT can be very helpful for getting a running start there. So without further ado, let's us take a quick look at what that configuration file is. So here we go. This is our text file. That's, telling it to the client. That should agree with your server.conf file. Ditto there. This is the server. This is the address that you're going to connect to and what port. I have an internal lab box that I'm going to be connecting to, and we configured that in the previous video. I don't even know what some of this stuff is, but it's kind of defaults that work with it. This is your encryption levels, and this is the amount of logging that you have. What you see now here, normally you'd see, if anybody's ever seen an SSL certificate when you're filling out like a web server and you're producing the request, you see there's a whole lot of text. That's going to go between here. And if you recall, we had those files that we created last time, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to use WinSCP. If I can bring it up to the screen here. There we go. All right, so there's our files here. So now when I first connected up as the user, I went straight to the home directory, and here we go. We have all those files that we copied last time. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy these again to our local desktop. We should have permissions because we set those last time. Here we go. Yeah, no problem. So these two are our end user. They would change for each user. They'd be different every time. These two here are consistent regardless of what user you're using. You always have the same TA and you always have the same CA cert. So we'll go get those going here. So now that we have these on our desktop, we're going to start with our CA, and our CA is here. So what I do for my client is I take the CA and the TA and I put it in this file and I use it as a template. Gotta make CA, not in the older one. There we go. So here's our CA, paste that in there, just like that. No spaces, no extra characters. And then we're going to do our TA key. Yeah, playing on Notepad works just as well, as long as any editor that supports text. All right, and then our TA key is at the bottom here. So this is our TLS crypt. If you notice here, it's TLS crypt, not TLS auth. I've had a lot better luck with that. Key direction 1, put that in there. And then, so that's it for our stock standard template. So at this point, you would have a template file, and everybody would get this file. And then you would modify it by inserting here and here the specific keys to the specific user. So let's start with that. Here's Bob Jones. Nice, good sounding, plausible name, right? That could be a Bob Jones somewhere. I'm sure there is. Hey, maybe Bob Jones is watching this video right now. And if it is, it's pure coincidence that I picked Bob Jones. So just saying, don't worry. I don't know who you are. There we go. And then the key. Copy exactly, no more, no less. All right, so there we go. We pasted our Our files exactly we saved their VPN. And now what we need to do is we need to go download the software. Now when I researched this, there is apparently 2 versions of the client software. I use the latest one, so I just searched for OpenVPN Client download. I had better luck with the later version. There's a free version on the community side. Community is supposed to be, free. I think the client's free for the paid version too. I didn't see any licensing complaints or pardon me. It didn't ask me for any, licensing or anything. And here we go, OpenVPN Client. But if you notice down here somewhere, yeah, here's the community downloads. I did not have good luck with this one, so I use this one, the 3.x version. I'm thinking it's free because it's a client. I'm not quite sure why the community version is different, but download that puppy. Okay, so we're downloading it. We're installing it now. Yeah, I didn't say anything about owing the money for using this thing. Okay, so once we're done, it'll launch up here. We agree to license, upload our file, and now we can go find our OVPN file that we created earlier. Cool, accepted it. And now, moment of truth. We're going to see if we can connect. And usually the connection process is really quick. It's taking a little while here, so that to me indicates that we may have a connection problem of some kind. Yeah, I think that's going to crash. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and connect to terminal. I'm going to do a little troubleshooting because you may run it at the same time as well on your end. All right, so if you remember on the last video, we created logging. So what we're going to do, well, first I'm going to go into full user mode here. There's no point in typing sudo every single time. And this is definitely not going to connect. It'll time out eventually, but I'll just stop it now. Yeah. You can go to logs here and see if there's anything that we see. Contacting, event, wait. It's almost acting as if the server isn't alive. That's typical of TLS problems. So if you have your TA key, that initial connection key, if that doesn't work, the client will just get rejected and that won't even get any kind of error. So what you can do is see it on this side here. So if we take a look at our log, and it's var log open VPN, and then we open VPN.log, usually. And we got no logs. It makes me wonder if we don't just need a reboot on this thing. Sometimes you do. Sometimes even in Linux, you must reboot. Gives a chance to start the server from scratch. Okay, so we're back in. First thing we're going to want to do is see if the service is even running. So, again, I'm going to do sudo.s, so I don't have to keep typing this password in there. Keep typing sudo every single time. So, systemctl status OpenVPN. And it does look like it's active and running. Enabled, that's good. Active, that's excellent. We see that. :Q to get out of that. And now, let's try to reconnect again. Well, still haven't. Oh, look at that. Okay, so a simple reboot got the service running for us. I probably neglected the last steps. All we had to do is reboot the server. So if you're running that, give that a shot. And here we are, connected and solid. Now the real test is, can we actually route? So what I've got now is I had a server on that VPN. 192.168.1.10. If we can ping this puppy, we're golden. And we are not golden. Troubleshooting, right? Can I ping 20? Yes, I can ping 20. That's good. Trace RT. Let's see. How am I getting there? Is it going straight to the client, or is it routing someplace weird? Now, if we go over here, IP A, and we see that we are 1.20. And from the server itself, 68.1.10, we can ping it. So we know that it's alive. It's just not routing over our VPN here. And so our trace goes straight to there, which is great. So it's not hopping out some bizarre route. We just need to figure out why it's not routing there. It's going the correct place. Oh, you know, I think I know the problem. I don't think I have a route on the thing that I'm trying to ping. That's our problem. Oops. Why didn't I think of this earlier? You know what? This is good for the video because then you all can actually 20 is the Linux box. So we want that to be our return path. Okay. So now let's go back to our prompt and see if we can ping .10. And look at that, we can. So routing goes both ways, folks. You got to have a gateway on the thing you're trying to ping so it can reply to the ping and get back to you. But now we are able to successfully VPN in. We're able to connect to our test box. I think I might actually leave this in the video just because it's good to see how to troubleshoot these kinds of things, the kind of errors that you have. It's very important to have a good test environment, a good method by testing, so you can know where your problem is. Good logging is important as well. And I think that's it. I think you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and shut down this VPN here. But that's it. And once you have this client running, you could kind of mimic this process on all the systems. And again, you have that one temp file. You want to make sure that each person has their own unique certificate so that we can lock them out if need be. That can be a bit of an involved process, though. So I think it makes sense to bring a part 3 to this video series that shows you how to lock out users that aren't there anymore, or certificates might have gotten stolen, that sort of thing. So thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the final part 3.